Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our brand new Active8 Minds podcast. Across the next 12 months, we are going to delve deeper into what we do as a company, including an insight into our staff's experiences, our current provisions, and the work we do in our community. Today, I am delighted to announce that we are joined by Company Director Dan Janowski. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
No worries. So today we are going to discuss a little bit more about Active8 Minds, who we are, what is the business and how it all started, and the journey that Dan has taken to get to where we are today. So Dan, for the people back home, tell us more about Active8 Minds.
Active8 Minds are a sport and activity provider for children and adults. We're predominantly based in Hampshire and West Sussex. And we've been running for just over 10 years now. We established ourselves in 2014. And what our mission is really is to inspire children and adults to kind of live healthy and active lifestyles through sport and activities and those kind of creative activities that we do at our clubs. We started as a very small operation in a back garden shed in early 2014. And then we've kind of expanded and grown into what you see today, which is a bustling operation with over 50 members of staff. Working at many locations, like I said, across Hampshire and West Sussex.
You've touched slightly on what the business is, but how did it all start? How did the business become a business?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't know you want to get into business until an opportunity arises. From an early age, I've worked from the ages of probably 12, 13. I grew up in Blackpool, so like a seaside town where there was always jobs going. So paperboy, worked in a fish and chip shop, a cafe, clearing tables. So I enjoyed work. It probably kept me out of trouble, which was probably a good thing. I then joined the Navy at 16, so I guess that's where I developed that real work ethic of, working hard and kind of reaping the rewards. Sadly, that was cut short, so I served for 10 years in the Royal Navy. I had an injury to my spine, so I had to leave, and then kind of had to rethink what I wanted to do myself. So I kind of had a few different jobs in marketing and advertising, and then thought this isn't quite for me. Went to college and then to university, and I think at the time I wanted to be, if I don't have told many people this, I wanted to be like a PE teacher, I think. I thought, I enjoy sport. I've always had an interest in sport, but also the impact that it has on your health. So I thought, a PE teacher, probably at secondary school. So I went to university, did a sports, so it's like the science of sports coaching. And then towards the back end, the business end when you're doing your dissertation, I kind of had this mad idea with my neighbour to set up a company. My other half of my family thought it was absolute madness. And they're like, no, you need to get a job because you kind of got all this debt from university. We need you to bring in some income because at the time we had 3 kids as well, by the way, so things were busy. But I just believed in it so much. And I guess it was kind of that drive. And probably going back to school, my school days, we used to do things like sell sweets and chocolates to make some money. So I've always had that, not a hustler side because, that makes it sound bad, but the need to kind of provide for yourself and your family through different means. So I've worked for employers, I've enjoyed my time, but I've kind of taken bits from those different industries and employers and implemented the good bits into what I do, and also kind of eradicated the bad bits, because in all businesses there's good and bad bits, right?
Absolutely.
So yes, I guess that's what's led me to where we are today, and the drive from that initial kind of idea, I guess.
Perfect. So obviously from myself, knowing you, I can probably imagine how your experiences back at home in Blackpool, in the Royal Navy, and obviously the last 10 years with Active8 Minds have sort of built you as a person. But I'm more intrigued as to how they've probably impacted the company and the way you want the company to run, the ethos behind it. So I know it's quite a difficult question to answer, what is the ethos behind Active8 Minds, but in your own words and your experiences, how was what you've learned in the past really benefited Active8 Minds as a company?
So I guess, looking at what an ethos is, it's like the values and beliefs of an individual, a group or a company, and it's kind of things that you've put together that determine, I guess, your path and how you operate. So yeah, you're quite right in saying, the companies that I worked for before, kind of taken the best bits of those, and then also maybe stuff that I've learned from my family and my upbringing. And that's what we've we've tried to embed within the company, is that we are a business, but more of a family business or family orientated business, I would say. As part of that ethos, we try to be as inclusive as possible, whether that's as an employer or for our customers, and that's children and adults that attend our sessions. You work in the community side, Dan, so you know about the adults with disabilities, but also maybe the dementia sufferers and their carers that we work with. The activities, we're kind of taking them back to activities that they used to do when they were young adults, and it kind of sparks a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for, like kind of activities that they used to do, and a bit more fun into their life, because, it's quite sad for some of them actually, but you kind of see that spark in their eye.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously I see it firsthand week in, week out, and from doing the research and from speaking to people that have more knowledge, say around dementia, for example, than me, I think when we link back to the well-being and that being such a big part of our ethos, also being able to promote that with others is massive. And I think what you're alluding to is sort of that mental stimulation. Yeah. So I run a dementia walking football, and it can be quite sad at times, and it is sometimes you come away from a session and you do feel a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, but a little bit down in terms of what you're first-hand seeing. But then at the same time, you know for a fact that hour and a half is a massive hour and a half of their week.
Yeah.
So we try and keep it as structured as possible. We referee it with a whistle. We have bibs. We swap ends at half time, and particularly swapping ends at half time comes with its challenges, as you can imagine with patients with dementia. But it also is that brain stimulation, and for their well-being and mental well-being, it's so important.
It's like that recognition, is it? So it's taking them back. So these are the rules that they used to have, and these are the rules that we still have. Like you said, even like the whistle has quite a big and meaningful impact on the game and the activity.
And even the ones that struggle with it a little bit more, that sometimes is quite difficult to watch from the outside. Yeah. The impact it will have without us guys even knowing, mentally and on their well-being, will be massive. Yeah. And I think seeing that firsthand, it's parallel to our company and the well-being of staff, people we work with, everything like that. So, definitely, I can see that in the ethos for sure.
I mean, touching on well-being, that's a huge part of our company ethos and beliefs. Certainly since COVID times, we kind of need to be more understanding of situations. So we have, for a long time, actually employed, we have 2 wellbeing superstars, if you like, within the team, and they are there to kind of listen, support, and arguably signpost individuals in our team should they need any additional help. We're not healthcare professionals, but they've been on particular courses that allow them to, or help them to understand maybe situations a little bit more. And you have the right people for that role, because kind of you're asking them to, be a bit of a sponge really, and be able to listen to some people's problems. And actually sometimes, somebody just offloading can actually work really well. I guess, wellbeing is a big part of our ethos and what we do. And the community side, which is something you're heavily involved in. We do the community pledges, which are stuff, you see firsthand. I actually did just before we broke for Christmas. Firsthand, we were cleaning out a PE shed. I mean, it was massive, this PE shed, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you could literally get everything out of it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's still tidy now, a couple of weeks in?
I haven't been back to the school.
I hope it is, but...
I hope it is, but who knows?
Who knows? We might be back
mystery.
there again. Absolutely. But, we were tidying up their PE shed, we were cleaning up leaves. I know that you've been doing projects such as digging out ponds and finding wildlife, but you can't put that into a job description, because people are like, they must be mad doing things like that. But tell us about the experience when our team go out. What maybe there's apprehension initially, but what are they feeling when they're out there?
Yeah, for sure. As I say, I think to begin with, it can be a little bit challenging to get staff on board, because if you're sending them an email saying we're going to be gardening at a school for 2 hours in January in the freezing cold, potentially in the rain, straight away we're sports coaches. Some people may not feel necessarily comfortable with doing that, but what I really pride them on is once we're there, it's just another experience that we wouldn't normally get. And from having a conversation with yourself and the other staff, it's that life experience as well. We've got a lot of young staff who are still at home, living with parents, and going to paint garden fences or gardening beds ready for relaying in the summer, digging out ponds. They may never do that ever again, but it's that other side of life that they might not get from everyday work.
I agree.
But really, they're just so enjoyable. You're with your friends, really. We're all colleagues, but we are also very good friends. Outside of work, it's a good laugh. We have good fun. But most importantly, we're helping the schools that sort of give to us, to give back to them, because without schools and facilities, we have nowhere to run. We haven't got a business. So I think it's really important, and I fully believe it's a really unique sort of selling point of our company. And something that when you speak to schools and places that we visit, they're really surprised that we even offer it. But no, it can be dreaded, but once people have been there, done it, they realise how important it is for the company, but also as a group of people to go.
And probably for themselves. So, if you were to Google the top 10 benefits that an employer offers, well-being or what's expected from an employee, well-being is one of those top 10. And this falls within that because we're doing nothing to do with the job. We're out in the open. We could be reading books with children or listening to children read books. So your focus completely shifts, and actually what may have been the start of a bad day, let's say, actually could be quite a positive day because you've had a completely different experience. And when you send me the pictures and we put it on social media, it's really great genuinely to see. They're not staged pictures; they're literally it is what you see. So it's people digging out mud, tidying up sheds. Just doing all those random tasks that perhaps the schools don't get around to doing. So,
and it makes you feel good as well, because we all get a kick out of going to deliver a sports session, know it's been a good session and the kids have got out of it what we need them to, but that's what we excel in. When you go and deliver something or go to do something that you may never have done before, but that's really helping out the school. So say we were at a community pledge on Wednesday at a school we work with, and their caretaker only works 1 day a week. Or their grounds person, sorry. So we know that 2 hours of sending 3 or 4 coaches down to help them out could potentially be the difference between 4 weeks for this ground.
A lot of tasks.
The amount of work that we can get done in 2 hours with 5 pairs of hands, it could take them 3, 4, 5 weeks to do, as we've been told firsthand by them. So you do feel good. You come away knowing that you've done something worthwhile and different. And I think that's really stimulating for well-being as well.
I just hope I don't get that email from you to come and paint a fence, because if you've ever seen me doing any painting, trust me, you got to want me back.
I'll bear that one in mind. But so for me, the community pledges and things like that are some of the biggest achievements that I see day to day for Active8 Minds. Obviously, you're going to know other achievements and milestones a lot more in depth than I do. So I think it'd be nice for people back home who may not know to share some of our biggest milestones and achievements across the last 10 years.
I mean, the obvious one that sticks out is actually still being in business after 10 years. When I set up the company with my previous business partner, I had no business experience or knowledge. I had no HR. I don't even know what HR stood for, honestly. So no HR experience, no experience of recruiting, a little bit of marketing and advertising, but there was lots of areas that I had no idea about. Same with accounting and finance. But I think that there's it depends on you as a person. I was like a sponge, and I was ready to absorb as much information, throw myself in the deep end. Like I said, my family were like, hang on a minute, what's going on? But I knew that because of my work ethic from a young age, I knew that I was determined. So I think that's the first biggest achievement, is to still be operating and still be growing, and still the phone is ringing. and that's what you can ask for. We've got a great team on board. We have more people that want to come and work for us. So we must be doing something right. I feel we've got a good formula there. The impact that we have on the community, not just doing the community pledges, but like we said, working with, we do the disability football, we do the cricket. Those kind of things are really meaningful and impactful, as well as the HAF project, which is a huge part of what we do. You may not know this, but actually we were part of the initial pilot for HAF when it was, I think it was called Connect for Communities. So this was in 2019 when it was first kind of came to fruition. So we were part of that pilot study, and we had to do lots of documentation and write-ups and information back to the lead personnel, which then got forwarded to the Department of Education, and then that was rubber stamped for, I think it was initially 3 years, 220 million a year. So, while directly, we don't get a mention in there, but we were part of that pilot, and that was a really big thing because HAF is still going. It's just recently been extended for another year, and long may that continue, because we work with some really vulnerable and families that need this service. Aside from HAF, we go above and beyond that, behind the scenes. It's not the sort of stuff that we tell everybody about, but as we do a lot more for our families behind the scenes, and we will continue to do that for as long as we can. We are a franchisor, so the company has been franchised. If you don't know what a franchise is, essentially McDonald's, Subway, they're all franchises. What you're essentially doing is taking one business model and replicating that at various locations. And I guess many years ago, I thought, right, if we were going into different schools, putting in these policies and processes and replicating that everywhere else, then why can we not do that in different parts of the country? So my goal is to kind of expand in good time. We have a franchise in West Sussex, and we have a franchise in Winchester, so it kind of gives us a nice corridor through, but there's no reason why that can't expand further. And another thing I'm really proud of, actually, another milestone, is the First for Sport training centre that we've set up. So we have external students that come to us that want professional qualifications to coach in this industry. We noticed a bit of a gap, really. So, for example, you studied at university.
Yeah.
Was it Chichester?
Yeah, Chichester.
So Chichester. So Chichester actually was, it's kind of on our doorstep. So we would have students come, apply for jobs with us. Fantastic degree, great experience, but no sports qualifications, which is madness considering they've done a sports degree. Yeah. So I think that's a mass injustice from the university being charged £9,000 a year to have all this knowledge, but you actually, in our world, are unable to apply it. So we said, right, there's not many courses available throughout the year, and ordinarily you'd have to travel. So we said, let's set up something ourselves. So I guess that takes it back to that kind of ethos of like, you just need to crack on and do it. So we did, and we're in our third year of providing First for Sport qualifications, which I'm really proud of.
Yeah, perfect. And staying on that university topic, I think for me, someone who's just come out of university in the last year to 18 months, I look at us as a company, and I think one of our key achievements for me personally is the amount of students we get coming to work for us. Yeah. Whether that be on placement and paid placement as well. Yeah. As I've said to you before, I've done placements when I was at university, unpaid, and yes, you're motivated to do it because it's aligned with what you want to do in the future.
Experience.
But it's a lot of time out of your week, sure. A lot of hours committed, and sometimes you do feel a little bit sort of taken advantage of a little bit because you're doing a lot of work for no money. Look at teaching placements, for example. You go teach full-time pretty much in a school for a year and receive nothing back. Yeah. And I just think that what we offer as a paid placement, not only are they learning work skills, life skills, but that financial skill of knowing how to manage money. Yeah. I went through 4 years of university, and realistically my only income was student loan. That goes on your rent, let a little bit from
just your rent?
Oh yeah, a few nights I think as well. But and then the rest of it was coming from just part-time pub work. So I didn't really have the money coming in alongside work to learn about that sort of money balance that you need. And I think for 18, 19-year-olds, that's a really, really important life skill to learn. So for me as a former student looking at that, I'm almost jealous of that, because I'd have loved to have had a year in a sort of a paid placement sort of role. So I do look at that as something so unique and special about the company. And for me, that is a massive achievement. I think that you guys who set it up should be really proud of.
Yeah, we're really proud of that. And what it actually means is then we can arguably get the best students, so we have a university that we've partnered with. We're in our third year of taking on paid placement students, and we go in, we do some talks and presentations, and then we go through interview processes. So there may be 20, 25 candidates across a broad spectrum of courses. So they could be psychology, sports psychology, business, coaching, etc. And we get to interview them, and it's a great opportunity because we are picking the best of the best. And that's why it works well. And like you said, it's that, we're paying them for their time. There's a time and a place for volunteering. I do believe that. But actually, like you rightly said, at kind of the age of a student, the fact that they don't have much money anyway, and also you're probably not going to get the best out of them. So I think it's important that they get paid. In fact, we're just planning our next presentation for the university. So I look forward to sort of presenting that with a couple of my colleagues. Yeah, but it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So we've touched on the past, and we've touched on the journey you've taken, the achievements, milestones that you've had along the way. So I guess the next thing is you've done the last 10 years. You've probably achieved way more than you ever thought you were going to as a company.
Yeah.
And probably have got a lot more that you want to achieve, and rightly so, we're in the position to do so. But what are Active8's goals for the future? Where do you see us growing and getting to?
Yeah, look, it's important to have goals. But it's also important to know that it's not kind of one straight line, and I've learned that along the way. I mean, look, we've made so many mistakes. I'm always happy to hold my hand up if we've done something, it hasn't worked out, or something's gone wrong and we've had to rectify it. But I think that's where growth lies, in kind of making those mistakes, because definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So talking about growth, I think we are going to continue doing what we're doing, but what we understand is that as our environment changes, we change, we adapt, we offer new activities, we find new venues, we bring in dynamic team members. So, I mean, we've touched on university students, but actually we employ staff we have apprenticeships, which are maybe in administration, as a play worker, a sports coach, a community coach, right the way up to like semi-retired staff that are in their 60s and 70s. So we have everything in between. And I love that, because it means the children, the schools, and all the adults that we work with get to work with a broad range of individuals, and there's some fantastic characters in there, and I mean characters, literally, it cracks me up. We have such a great team, and I think because we have that affection for each other in the office, in the workspace, when we're playing games or darts or Uno, when we've got a bit of spare time, people, their true colours come out, and we have a great team, and I hope that transpires at the other end during our sessions. So, growth for us, but growth in the individuals and the teams that work for us. I really like to see the progression in them, how they've grown from maybe a student coming for us, like you said, doesn't really know much about money, about expenses, but we also teach life skills. We're adults. Some of us have children and other responsibilities, and we kind of learn from each other. I learn, like we were talking before about TikTok and social media.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel that I'm that old, but at 45 almost, I don't really know much about those kind of platforms, and you lot were sort of having a little giggle at me, but that's okay, because I probably need to learn more about those for us to expand in different areas. So we kind of teach each other, don't we?
Absolutely, and I think it's like touching on that and the sort of team mentality we've got. We've all played in sports teams, the majority of us have, and I can safely say that out of a lot of the teams I played in, the team mentality of this work team is just as high as I've ever seen in any team that I've played in. And that's a sports team where the mentality needs to be high. We're at work, you don't always need to get along with the people you're working with. Most of the time you're there to do a job, pay the bills, and that's that. Yeah. But like I've said to you before, and other members of staff, and I know they agree, I don't ever wake up dreading to come to work. I'm excited to come to work, and that's all from that team sort of morale. When you say about the darts competitions we have, the little Uno competitions we have in our spare time, but all of that adds up because we come into work hard, and we do work hard, but we also have that balance of, right, we're on a lunch break, let's have half an hour of downtime and have that social side. And I think that's really important because when times get tough and we need to find cover for illness and things like that, no one turns their nose up at it. We just get on with it because we have each other's backs. Yeah. And that's a massive, massive part of this company and why it's such a positive environment to work in. So I think and that comes from you guys, from putting that in the mould and allowing us to sort of have that as well. So yeah, I think it's massive for us.
It's important for us to listen as an employer because, we don't know all the answers. We don't have all the answers, but it's important that we're transparent with that and say, look, it's as much of a journey as it is for us at times as it is for you. Yeah. Naturally, you play football to a very good level, Dan, so you have a natural leader within your team, and you looked at leader for guidance and the manager and the coaching staff. And the same happens for us, but also I think there's some power in the fact that actually we also look to our team about, what do we do in certain situations, and I think it's kind of nice to have that two-way, certainly a two-way conversation, which works really well.
Yeah, perfect. So that actually links really nicely into the next question. It's almost like we've planned that one, but we haven't really touched on competition and other companies. We know that there's many companies out there that do very similar things to what we do. So for us, it's trying to be as unique as possible and get people talking about why we're different to competitors. So in a nutshell, I know we've touched on things already, but why is Active8 Minds different from its competitors?
We care. I can't speak for other companies, but I know that we care about our customers and we care about our staff. Without those, we don't have a business. So it's important that we look after them. But I think it's how you look after them that it's like, someone told me, it's the devil in the detail. So it's those things like the well-being, the community pledges that we do. We haven't talked about, we have like what's called an appreciation station where we have small little gifts that we package up and we give to our staff. But actually, the power is the fact that it's anonymous. So somebody's received a gift from one of their peers because they've done a fantastic job. They don't know who it's from, but somebody's recognised that. So we've implemented things like that. We have been going for 10 years. When we first started, perhaps this environment wasn't as saturated as it is now, but that's okay because I love what we do. We have a great impact on our community. You need competition because without competition you become complacent, and we naturally can't do that because we don't want to let our customers down and our team down. I do believe we give a very comprehensive package to our staff. There's some really good benefits in there, which again are ever changing as our environment changes and as our team changes. So we kind of keep up to date with that. And I think, look, we treat each other the same. So whether you're the apprentice or, myself, I'd like to think we all talk to each other with respect, and you have to have a hierarchy, okay? But it's not like that. I think we have a nice environment where I'd say everyone gets on, like you said. We don't all have to be best friends at work. You're naturally going to gravitate towards certain people. That happens in any industry. But I think the friends and the groups that have kind of formed, it's really nice to see. And it's nice to see them flourish and do things outside of work because, you would never have known each other had we not have, brought you to Active8 Minds. So it's really nice to see.
Yeah, and it is crazy that it's like, as you said, we've all come from different backgrounds, different parts of the country. Yourself, you're from Blackpool. I'm from Northampton, miles away from here, both of us.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, we're in this industry and at this company, and I find that quite a special thing as well because I generally look at some of the people I've met here and think I will, regardless of where I'm working, I will be in touch with them forever.
Yeah.
And I think that's really different to other jobs that I've had in the past, whereas I've picked up little part-time work at uni. I don't speak to people that I used to work with back home, but I can safely say that I do think that I will here, and I think that comes down to, again, that sort of team morale that you've built and everyone being on that level playing field and allowing us to sort of gravitate to each other because we have the chance to do it. I think if you were sat on a phone in an office all day over a computer screen, you don't have the time to talk to people, so naturally you're not going to get to know them as well, then you won't have similar interests and things like that. I think it's a strange thing, but the fact we're all pulled together and we form these little friendship groups is what makes us so successful, because as I've said before, we need to cover to help a mate out. We will cover and we don't bat an eyelid at it, and we just do it. And I think that's really important, because the minute people start saying no is when we're going to fall out and have issues. So I think it's really important that we have that.
Yeah, and it's nice because that kind of just comes to fruition quite naturally. I mean, maybe it's because we've all seen each other's dance moves and actually we don't want anyone else to see them, so we stay as a group. I don't know. For some people, I reckon that might be the case. Yeah, true.
So we're going to round up the first podcast of the year with the last question. Probably a little bit tricky. As I said before, you've done this now for 10 years. You would have had this idea in 2014 in that garden shed, and looking at where you've come from and where you are now, you'd have achieved so much more than you ever imagined. So that's got to then affect motivation either in a positive or a negative way. Yeah. For knowing you, I know that it's just going to drive you further and further, but what is it that keeps doing that? What is it that motivates you to keep going in this industry and want to improve for another 10, 20, 30 years?
A couple of things probably stick out. The first one is probably the impact that it has on our customers and our community. You know, I touched on it before about the most vulnerable families that we work with, and the impact that it has on them. You know, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, we don't discuss it in public because it's not the right place to do that. We kind of, you know, we just get along with those tasks. But the impact, and when I hear conversations on the telephone in the office and I see emails and, you know, physically see what impact it has on these families and children, it sort of melts your heart. So, you know, as long as we have a business, we'll keep doing that. I have a family. You know, it is a business. I want to do the best that I possibly can for my family and to give them some great memories. And, you know, then there's my work family, because we are like that at work. I mean, we share food, we go out and do different activities together like you would with your very close mates. So it feels like that at work. So I think as long as those three things are at the forefront of my mind, then I think Active8 Minds will always be there and growing as it is at a sensible rate.
Lovely, that's good to hear. So ladies and gents, that wraps up our first podcast. I hope you've all really enjoyed listening to that sort of deeper understanding of where our company has come from. Thanks again to Dan for joining us today and taking some time out of your busy week. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Join us again next month, where we will be focusing on our staff, the different roles we have within the company, our staff's experiences, and what they bring to make Active8 Minds the company that we are. But thanks again, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care. Bye-bye.